teacher. And it seems nobody's interested in learning but the teacher.
You gonna intro this in?
No, I'm not qualified. I don't have the Chalk Talker voice.
Oh.
Hey, why don't you do it?
Do what?
Go, hey, Chalk Talkers.
You gotta intro this in.
So what I have to say, hey, Chalk Talkers?
Well, you just say, hey,
Yeah,
Chalk
but you gotta do it in
Talkers.
your man voice.
Yeah. Hey, Chalk Talkers.
That's good. What's up, Chalk Talkers?
Hey, so today we're,
Don't look at the camera.
you have to look at the camera.
Hey, Chalk Talkers. Did I do good?
Today we're sitting here with Ben Rice. He came down to Savage Gym to train with us for the day, and we hit some squats, a little bit of benching, worked on some technique stuff, hopefully some stuff you'll be able to take away from, and obviously since I skipped leg day, I couldn't give you a ton of advice on squatting, but
Since I suck at bench, I actually did okay. I just made something up with a PVC pipe and it worked.
Pretty helpful.
first time. So first I want to address something, I guess we stole Chalk Talk from you.
Oh,
And I want to bring that up.
yeah. I was letting them know.
Sorry.
years ago, I did a little question and answer section on my YouTube video. Okay,
You can't do that.
He says that's a real thing.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Call the question and answer.
So
section. It was a
I'll
question
email you
and
an
answer.
apology letter.
But that's fine. You know, I'm here now. I'm gonna get my money. It's all good. It's all good. But,
At least we didn't steal like a program from you
Yeah.
and write a book.
that's fine. I think
Because it
it's
could be way worse.
secret shots fired. But anyway, no, it's cool.
Beta
I think
project.
I wasn't able to keep it going for very long, but I support this. I'm here
Say
on
that
this
with a question
I
mark.
support this broadcast. Okay, these guys have some weird discussions and it's fun to watch. So
My next book I'm writing is called Squared.
I get it now.
Oh no!
It's gonna be all deadlifting and squatting.
Here come the lawsuits.
Uh-oh. Is there any way Brian Carroll can help me out with that?
Oh, boy.
Hey, so
Is there
Ben,
an edit function on
I
this?
feel like you get us into all this trouble.
Yeah.
I'm not important enough for to be like, that's cool, but I'm just tagging in all your shit talking.
but it's really funny.
No, it is really funny.
So Jaren's the one who generally edits it and makes sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I go through and then I'm like, well, that was a bad idea. And then last time, because I apparently suck at using a computer, I was like, I should probably consider taking that out. I was like, but I don't know how to do that, so oh well, publish. Next thing I know.
Our last one, I made a few choice comments. I wish I could have taken back, so we edited that out. Well, hey Ben, let's talk about kind of maybe a little bit about yourself. Kind of, you're from the Washington area, a few hours away from us.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Well, I started lifting when I was like 10 years old. So I've been at it a while. I'm 25 now, so it's been about a decade and a half of time under the bar. And went to Central Washington University. I studied vocal performance music there. So I've been in operas, musicals. I'm currently still in an a cappella group. So I studied a whole lot of stuff that has very little to do with weightlifting. But powerlifting's been a passion of mine since the days when lifting in like single and multiply was pretty much the only option. And so it took me, I started out in single ply lifting, and then into college I switched into the raw scene. After that became kind of a viable option back before even USAPL and those kind of federations like had their own raw start to really happen and take place. It was, when raw was just singlet and knee wraps, that's when I kind of got into that, and then have been moving further and further away from, using less and less equipment as I go. But some of my best lifts in single ply gear back in the day, I pulled 751 as a junior. That was in the WABDL. That was a world record, and I'll use the air quotes now. That was a world record at the time for the junior class.
Send them an email, but
My best competitive deadlifts in the 198 class, I pulled 727 at 195 in the USAPL. So that was a same day weigh-in and all that good stuff. My best full power meet at 198 was 1746 raw with wraps at the same body weight, 195. So I squatted 661, benched 352, I think, on that day, and pulled 733 with just a belt. and then my later stuff, I've hit a 705 wrapped squat in competition, which at the time was an all-time drug tested world record. It was at 220, and then most recently, I feel like it's just got such a long list because all the different crap I've done. But 651 squat at 220 with belt and sleeves, 391 bench press, and a 750 deadlift in a full meet at the same body weight. So those are kind of the lifts I've worked myself up to. I'm a lifetime drug-free guy. No issues with people using. It's just not my path. And yeah, I've been around a while, even though I'm not an old guy. So I've seen a lot of the sport change and do all these things. And I pretty much spend my time now full-time coaching and training and just living life. So
Awesome.
that's me.
So you said you started lifting when you were 10 years old. How, what kind of got you? Because at 10 years old, you're pretty young. You don't really know what's going on. So what kind of pushed you in that path?
Honestly, I was just at a very young age. I realized that I wanted to be really strong, and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to go about it. The kind of the methods that a lot of people get into now, especially with powerlifting, it's gotten a lot easier to get into the sport. YouTube happens now. There's multiple forums. You can pretty much find anything you want on the internet. When I started lifting, YouTube wasn't an option. I remember spending a lot of time just reading magazines, reading books. I think when I was going through junior high, I read the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia on Bodybuilding. Every morning I would just read through as much as I could, and then I think by the time I got through into like 9th grade, I'd probably read that entire book like 7 or 8 times, all the way through. Even though it's got a lot of pictures, it takes a bit of time. But
it is a thick book.
yeah,
There's a lot
yeah.
of pages.
But since I can remember, I've loved the idea of getting stronger and getting better at something. I don't feel like starting out I was the most genetically gifted with strength. I think that I never got accused of having good genetics until I've been lifting for almost 10 years. But one thing that I know that I have a genetic predisposition is I try to learn as much as I can about something and constantly try to learn more and keep working really hard. And I'm really stubborn in that sense that I just won't quit on something. I'll just keep doing it even if it doesn't, if it's something that is I have a passion about or something I care about a lot. I just keep doing it even when people may not see it as being the best option. So that's kind of my gift, is just working really hard for extended period of time when most people would probably have quit beforehand.
Yeah.
That's kind of a unique trait, because I think nowadays a lot of people want the immediate answer. You know what I mean? They want that pill, the magic pill that's going to give them results immediately. And very few people, at least, most recently that I've dealt with, have really thought about putting time into researching different methods or researching why they do things. And we recently just talked about one of our episodes about asking the questions why you're doing certain things and really researching different training methods to figure out what works for you. So I think it's a good trait to have. So I want to tell a story here, because when Courtney and I came up and watched you deadlift at that competition up in gosh, I don't even remember.
That was Alki. I think
Alki,
that was
yeah.
Alki Beach. That was the USAPL that I did.
Yeah. So we came up there, and that was the first time I got to meet you, and so we talked for a few minutes, and when we had left, she told me the story that she was at school, she was in the gym, and somebody said, man, there's this freshman that's lifting crazy-ass weight. And so she's expecting to see some big monster come rolling in. She finds out later that you were singing, and
that's a turn off, right?
and she's like, I don't get it. There's this guy who's supposed to be a monster in the gym, but he is singing. And then she sees you and is like, wow, you're super strong, you're super smart about lifting, and you sing. And it was like kind of her image of you when you were described to her was completely different than what she ended up seeing. It was kind of an interesting story. And when I first met you, I was like, gosh, he's pulling some major weight. I mean, I think at that competition, you were deadlifting either an American record or a world record at that time.
It was a USAPL American record,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, it was a 727 at 195 on an Alico bar with just wore a belt, and it was outside. That was a weird.
Yeah.
That was a weird
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. So, just an interesting story I wanted to throw in there. So, when did you start wrestling?
Oh, when I hit junior high, I was wrestling. We were able to do wrestling and basketball. So when I went through high school, I did multiple sports. I wasn't really good at them. To be honest, I'm like by nature, I'm a pretty pacifistic person. I'm not a violent guy by nature at all. So like things like football and wrestling and really physical contact sports were not my cup of tea just because I couldn't get mad at the guy. I'd have a coach say something like, you gotta get angry, you gotta get out there, and you gotta get him like, he didn't do anything to me. I don't have any bad, I don't know what his, like, why is he frowning at me, man? We're just going out there and like, I'm gonna hug you to the ground, that's all it is. But it was, I started that in 7th grade. We had I ran cross country in junior high, believe it or not.
Wow.
I ran cross country, I wrestled in the winter, and then played basketball, and then after that it was soccer season, and I ran track at the same time. So I played soccer, not with the school, played that ever since I was a little kid, and then ran track. It's funny because I'm not like a hyper competitive person, but I like to put myself in an environment, again, where I feel motivated to grow, and it's not so much so that I can beat A, B, or C, and I think that there's a few, like that's a different mindset than a lot of people have. But I've really always come at it with the whole idea of, it doesn't matter, I can't change how good someone else is going to be at something. I have zero effect or control on their ability unless I'm coaching them and like sabotage them or something douchey like that. So it's all I really have control of is improving my own performance and getting better. It just so happens that in wrestling it's a lot more like face-to-face kind of a thing, and so it wasn't something I loved to do, but I remember the high school guys came down and told us on the junior highs, like, you guys better wrestle and not be pansies and play basketball when you get up here, else we're going to beat you up. So I wrestled all the way through high school. So I did 5 years of wrestling, and then I had some issues that I wasn't able to wrestle my senior year. So
It's interesting, I went in 6th grade to wrestle, and my first experience with wrestling, I go to this match, and a little kid gets picked up and dropped, and he broke his leg, and so they ended up canceling the rest of that match, and I never stepped foot on a wrestling mat since. That was it. That was it for me. So, or were you a baller? Could you shoot some threes?
I was not great. I'm not very tall right now, but at the time, like, I peaked early on the height game.
I'm gonna have to use that line.
Yeah.
I'm not so tall much like at this moment, but in the day.
Back in like 6th grade, I was just closer to the net than everybody else, so it just took less skill for me to be able to take shots. But I remember that we did have a basketball hoop out in my driveway, and that kind of the same mindset whenever I'm in season of something, like that's, everything else just kind of gets shut off, and so I would go out there and I would just shoot. And I lived in Montesano, Washington, so it's like on a scale of 1 to water level, it rains all the freaking time. So I would go out and I would shoot. I had this Bugs Bunny basketball, is this rubber nasty thing, and I would just shoot it until literally the tips of my fingers came off, and so I rarely ever missed free throws in a game. But then as soon as someone's like in my way, I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm trying I have a lot of intention where this ball is going, and you're really throwing me off my groove. So if you would just step over, thank you. So yeah, I didn't play basketball through after junior high, but I worked really hard in that junior high time, and yeah, so.
So I'm asking this just to piss Jaron off. Who's going to win the finals?
Jesus.
Oh, see,
Killing me right now.
Okay, I can't tell you about professional sports teams right now. What I can tell what I
really?
can tell you about
I
is
just made a new best friend.
I follow competitive League of Legends and Call of Duty.
Nice.
Come at me, bro. That's my Super Bowl.
I'm out.
Alright, Adrian.
Yeah,
I'm out.
Optic Nation. They got robbed this year. If you're having to ask what that is, don't worry about it.
I still don't know what you're talking
Yeah, that's
about. But
fine.
I just feel better the fact that he just got shut down. He tried to shut me down.
I wish I could help
I do
out.
know what he's talking about.
There you go. That's right.
I think I just found out what's wrong with your sleeping pattern.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The worst part is I don't even play the games half the time. I just like to watch the competitive players. That to me is crazy.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
The stuff they do is just ridiculous.
Well, it's way more relatable because, like what you're saying, a lot of basketball, professional sports, football, and I apologize if I'm talking a whole lot, but I drove 5 hours to get here, so I'm gonna talk about it. But like with professional sports, you know, if you played in high school, you played in junior high, you can kind of relate a little bit, but never quite to that level of this thing going. You can pick up a video game and play that, and on esports, they practice for like 12 or 13 hours a day. They have zero outside life, and they get really good at these games. And to me, it's just as exciting watching that as like, okay, people are going to hate me for saying this. I did not watch the Super Bowl this last year, and Seattle was in the Super Bowl. I'm from
so
Washington.
many parts of my life feel, I feel
validated now.
because I was watching a League of Legends tournament, and I was getting hypey. I was getting hypey, and I went out after I watched my League of Legends tournament. I went out and I pulled a pause deadlift PR wearing giant blue footy pajamas. Look the video up. I'm gonna make sure Jen has it in the description below. It was epic.
Awesome. Well, you know what's funny is I didn't watch the Super Bowl either. I went and watched Lone Survivor.
There you go.
And the only reason behind this is because the Lone Survivor just came out. There was nobody in the theater. It was like a chance. I don't like going to the theater and there being a lot of people, so it was nice. We were the only two in there and had watched the movie to ourselves. It was fun.
Nice.
That's a good time right there.
So, what kind of got you in the direction of singing?
I mean,
Is that from a young age?
Pitch Perfect or what?
oh, heck. Bro, I predate Pitch Perfect. Let me tell you what's up with that. No, I started singing when I was in church before I went through puberty and stuff. My dad was active in the church community. He played the guitar, and you know that whole little choir boy voice, the little soft singing and stuff. That's what I kind of got introduced to music through, and you know, I just kind of got more and more into it. I played instruments in high school. I played the alto saxophone in a jazz band, in our marching band, but I was always in the sports, so I never actually marched once. I had the uniform, never did it, and transitioned that into like full-time singing, and then got into college and made pretty noises with my mouth voice. That's really what it is, and it was. Yeah, my whole approach to college and university learning, I was there for a long time because I was studying music, but I was also studying anything else that sounded interesting. It's just kind of the way my brain works. It's like, that sounds cool. I want to take, take a quarter and learn as much as I could. So I also got a minor in American Sign Language that I went to a class and thought it looked cool, so I just stayed with it for 3 years. Probably why I'm still there. Yeah, it's just, music it's something I think you can relate to, and anytime I find something that I'm passionate about, I want to get better at it. And that was lifting, and that was music for me, and I try to find the highest level of improvement that I can find for myself. What can I do to get better at this thing? Oh, I really like singing. What can I do? Go and spend 7 years at a university trying to learn how to be better at it. Oh, I really like lifting. What can I do? Spend most of my day on YouTube or on Facebook or on forums, reading books, getting all the literature I can, trying to improve at this, talking to people that are better than I am at it and learning from them, and just I think that's one of the only things you can really control about your own progress. You can never control what your genetic structure is like. You can never control what the situations surrounding you are. All you control is your effort and your ability to dig in and say, I'm going to do the work it takes to improve my own standard and my own level to get as high as I'm capable of getting. And it just, once you get to that level, there's so many people who quit before that is even potentially possible. You never, you quit before you find out what you're capable of. And fortunately, I haven't found what I'm capable of yet, so I'm not looking to quit yet.
I kind of feel like if you had to pick something to pick up chicks, it's either singing or playing the guitar. So I think you're on the right track there. I can't do either. So.
You just have to talk like, there you go, Adrian Larson.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I'll talk on the phone. They're like, oh, he's and then I jump out of the truck all 5'5", and they're like, what the fuck? Yeah. So what are kind of some of your biggest accomplishments? And maybe it isn't necessarily like setting records or anything like that, but maybe something that you've done in the gym or something that for you. Getting a sponsorship or whatever in this sport, what is kind of the biggest accomplishments you feel that you've obtained?
It's kind of funny because it's not really tied to any of the accolades, I guess. I mean, I've had some pretty good meets. I've had some pretty good performances. Nothing has ever really lived up to the potential that I've wanted it to yet. I've never, even if someone else looks at that like it was a really good meet or that I was there, I still usually want more than I ever came away with. Honestly, the biggest sign of success to me in what I've been doing has been through the YouTube community. And you know, I don't have a crazy huge following by any means. I'm not Johnny Candido or, you know, Twin Muscle Journey or something going on with, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But I definitely have found a pretty quality source of support through them. And there's one video that comes to mind anytime someone says, well, is it, you know, has all this work you've done, is it worth it? You know, the way that I structure my videos, putting all this time doing these things, what is the kind of the one thing you could point to and say, this is when you know you've made it? And it was a shout-out video from my man, Abdullah Zainab. And if you guys haven't watched it yet, I'm going to make you all sit down and watch this. It's 8 minutes long, and I couldn't tell if it was a troll video or the most epic shout-out video ever. It's this guy, and it was Matt Ogus on the Flex for All 2 channel, posted it on his channel too, and it was probably the biggest splurge of subscribers I've ever had, where this guy sat there for 8 minutes and talked about how much I had impacted him. And I mean, he's funny, beyond appropriate funny. Like, do not watch this if you're at work and people don't understand the use of the Australians using the C word. But it was one of those things where I had a moment where I stepped back and said, wow, even if there's only one person who I've been able to have some sort of positive effect on with what I'm doing, the way that I approach it, and my outlooks on this sport, and using it as a way to structure and center my own life, to see someone have that many nice things to say that are incredibly flattering, and have it coming from a place, even if it's a joke or not, even that those thoughts happened, that was the biggest accomplishment, and I still haven't been able to match that with any actual lifting achievement that I've done. So, Jaron will link that video in the description as well.
I definitely will.
You know, picking all these out.
I'm interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna. I can't watch it without crying, like cry laughing the whole time. And my boss at work found it, and it is, like I said, it is not safe for work. But he comes in one day and he called me a sick C word. And watch the video,
Camel?
okay?
Is it camel?
Camel?
Is it
Huh?
camel?
I didn't know.
No.
Is it cardio?
I will just watch the video. You'll find out. You'll find
It's a
out.
cupcake.
That's
Yeah,
it.
it's gotta be a cupcake.
Shit, cupcake.
So kind of moving over, I guess, and starting to talk about your YouTube channel and what you're doing with that, and I guess the kind of the impact that you've been able to have on people like the C-word Australian guy, who I really want to watch that
I'm
video.
sorry, Abdul, I didn't mean to do that to you, man.
Whatever. I've kind of followed your channel for the last few years. We were talking about that down when we were training. And one of the things that made me want to subscribe to that is you were one of the few people that I've seen who, in addition to, you know, kind of publishing some training footage, and at the end of the day it's really just squats and bench and deadlift, but you add commentary over that, and actually seem like a very introspective person, and you put a lot of thought not just into what you do, but also kind of how that affects the person that you're becoming, and you draw a lot of those same correlations. And I have kind of always, I joking around and I'm kind of a bullshitter, but I take things very seriously like that, and I kind of have all those thoughts buzzing through my mind. They're usually all just banging around back and forth because I have no attention span. But
On that one.
and I actually used to write quite a bit when I was bouncing around through college. I just about had a writing minor until I realized that I was really tired of living off of top ramen and needed to start making some money. But that was kind of something for me that always forced me to sit down and actually kind of organize my thoughts on things and take time out of just being distracted professionally. And you seem to have been able to do that kind of using a different medium, and that was something that was really interesting to me. What kind of made you want to put those two things together?
Well, I think to me they've always kind of been connected. And when I first started out making videos and editing videos together, I wasn't really sure. You know, when my first YouTube video ever was like, I just wanted to show some of my friends this cool thing that I did. And then it kind of shifted from that. I got the Universal Nutrition sponsorship, and it became part of, you know, keeping that, was creating content for people to want to buy supplements. And, you know, so I'd post some of my training on that. It was usually just gym lifts, and eventually I started putting those together into like compilation videos of like the start of the whole workout, condensed. Then I started putting music over that, and it was fun to do that. And I had, you know, some people that were following, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I really had as much of an outlet. I was getting this platform. I was getting this platform with people who were paying attention to the things that I was doing, and I just have. It's hot as
It is.
it's
It's
very
like
hot
85
up here,
degrees
so I
in
did not
here.
even mind that. But eventually, I saw my buddy Ben Seath had posted a video where he did like a training commentary and kind of talked about his lifting. And I said, oh, that'd be kind of cool. And I on my next video, I said, hey guys, you're hearing my voice and not like a Slipknot song or something right now. And I'm just going to try this out and talk over some things that I'm thinking. And it kind of shifted. At first it started with the weightlifting, and then as the platform kept growing and people kept listening to what I had to say, I started to shift from, here's the thing about powerlifting, like you said, you kind of run out of, this is a squat. Here's what you're looking for on the squat. You've seen it before. It's the same thing I do every time. Obviously, I'm still trying to get better at it, and that, repeat that for all the lifts. But there was something I wasn't hearing as much of, and that was people talking about what you're going through when it comes to strength sports, and specifically that's kind of, what I've been grounded in. That's what I've centered so much of my life around this process. And there are thoughts that happen, and it's not just me see weight, me lift weight. And the people who approach it like that aren't going to get very far. Your entire life kind of gets taken over by this, and there's a balance issue that happens, but I found it to be really helpful to use my medium through YouTube of talking about kind of what's going on with my mind, and then starting to relate what's happening outside the gym to the gym and vice versa. And so people might be able to look and say it's a little preachy or it's hyper analytical or you're just thinking way too much about what you're doing, but I think that you can really relate so many things in a life that would be an ethical or a good life, what I would consider it anyway, to the struggles and the process of improving yourself physically, where you're looking and saying, well, here's this place that I am at, this is where I am I happy with myself? Is it important to develop a sense of contentment and being satisfied with who you are, but then also to want more in your life? And it's about approaching success, and I think that most of the people now that follow my channel and most of the people that kind of connect with what I try to talk about and try to spread is they watch it less for the weightlifting, or at least I'm assuming half of them watch it less for the weightlifting and watch it more for just some of the ideas that maybe, like you said, it's all in your head and it's bouncing around, but then maybe I have an opportunity to put some of those thoughts into a slightly more cohesive thought, like if you sat down and you wrote it out, or if I just get in front of a camera or behind my computer screen and I'm just talking about what I was feeling or what I was thinking or what's going on in my life and how to deal with these certain things. I will never run out of content then. I never have to worry about, here's how to fix a squat or 10 tips to lose weight for the summer. It's, you're always going to have points in your life where you're going through struggles and you're going through things that you're maybe not the most satisfied with, or you're going to have points of happiness and joy, and you're going to have these things. And how do you balance that? And how do you shift those perspectives in a way that can help benefit you when you're working towards a goal and make that more attainable, and to keep a positive mindset, to keep yourself kind of attached to whatever it is that you're trying to do? And so I've really found kind of my niche in doing those. And I mean, some people really like it. Some people say, shut up and just show us the lifting and put on death metal. If that's you, go ahead and mute my videos and put it on death metal. I don't really care, but just subscribe if you haven't already. So
yeah, I can kind of relate to that just because I've been lifting for a while now too. I never trained just for powerlifting. I just go to the gym because I use it as an outlet. And me just getting out of the Marine Corps, that's like my biggest outlet right now. And I can relate to that as far as like people wanting to see how you're doing as a person, not just how you're doing as a lifter. And I think that's a pretty good idea, because there's so many people out there just post videos of them working out and not talking about anything, or there people just post videos of them telling you how to lift, but sometimes people don't want that. They want to see you lifting, and they want to see how you're progressing as a lifter and as a person. So I think it's a pretty good thing.
Well, I think that kind of also, the other thing that I kind of really enjoyed about the content that you put out is you you really embrace the process of getting stronger. And I think that's something that there are definitely not enough people talking about, because everything is always, what's my next 12-week program, or what can I do to hit my next PR, or what's this, and everything is always focused around this end goal of hitting a certain number or accomplishing something, when really, if you can move away from just what you're trying to attain, because guess what, when you get there, you're going to have to pick a new goal anyways. And if you do that, I find that those people are always hanging, their happiness and their contentment and their self-worth on something that they're still reaching towards, instead of learning how to be happy and how to be content with the process of working towards something. And, that's something that I've noticed that you mentioned quite a bit as well, and that was something that resonated with me as well.
Yeah, the idea that your value as a human being and your value as a person is not tied to your ability to do something. It's not tied to your ability to pick up weights good and stuff. It doesn't matter. It's in the long, like, we have all kind of fallen in love with this pursuit and this passion of something that is only important because we put our own importance on it. And I'm not trying to wreck anybody's world, but a lot of people, and I mentioned it, it's going to be goofy. I mentioned it with the competitive gaming. Those guys over in Korea who are playing these games and are amazing at these games are making more money than any of us are ever going to make from powerlifting by playing a game. And if you stand here and say, well, what do you bench? They don't care what they bench. And their self-worth is defined in different ways. And so if you're trying to take how much you matter, how important you are as a person, based off of what you can do in one aspect, you've picked one aspect, and we all picked a pretty niche aspect. It's not like we did something that is this huge booming thing. Powerlifting and even strongman to some extent is kind of on this. It's kind of under the radar in terms. I mean, CrossFit showed up and in 5 years managed to completely overwhelm anything that was, and is actually boosting those other numbers, because what we picked is not the important thing. The thing that's really important is why you picked it, why you're doing it, and how you are changing and maturing as a person to continue to pursue that. Because you're not going to last very long if you're a douche waffle and you're not a good person, because most of the things that happen in your life that are going to be positive things are not going to be through your own hard work. Most of the good stuff that happens in your life is because other people are willing to help you out because of the kind of person you are. If you can build your character through this, if you can test your character and you can relate it to that, then you get to improve in a physical sense. You get to work on that, you get to work on building those goals, but you also get to become a better person, and people are drawn to better people. There's so many people out there who don't have it figured out yet, and they think that, oh, if I just get this much more on my total, everyone's gonna like me, and I'm gonna be so popular, I'm gonna be famous. I mean,
Beast mode.
There's a reason. If you look at the YouTube demographics and the YouTube community, the people that are the most popular and the most viewed are not the people who are the most high level in the sport. There's, the people that are more relatable. And I'm personally not super huge into the vlogging style, but I like to talk over my stuff. But you run out of content. You run out of intrinsic value when you're tied to this one thing, and that's all you can have a conversation about. If I come up and I want to talk to you about something like a person, and the only thing you can talk about is weightlifting, and that's it, that gets tired. You run out of stuff to talk about pretty fast, and especially when like 20% of the work is going to get you 80% of the results. That's something I've talked about a few times, and it's really true. Anybody can get the 20% figured out that gets you to that 80%. And then the elite level guys are the ones who are putting in 80% of the work to get that last 20% of the output. But a lot of doing that tends to come at a price of kind of sacrificing a little bit of your humanity, maybe hermiting up a little bit or doing some of that, but you lose. I'm not going to say that all the guys who are really excellent in the sport aren't humanistic and can't relate, but I think it's important, I guess, my own opinion is that you have to keep some sort of balance, and you have to continue working on yourself, not only as a lifter, but as a person. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that's something that is in my mind constantly when I'm talking about stuff I do in my videos. So,
one of the things when I met you originally at that competition. You know, as soon as I got home, I subscribed to your YouTube page and I started watching this stuff. And I mean, you really are a genuinely good person. I mean, you don't just care just about yourself, and I mean, there's just more to you than just lifting. And you know, you talk about some of the stuff like singing and you know, all the different aspects of your life. And I mean, it's just kind of just blows you away a little bit, because you typically you go onto YouTube and you pull up a video and you see a 3-minute video of some guy putting on wrist wraps and benching, and then it says thanks sponsors, and that's it. And there's much more to it than what you're putting out there. It means a whole lot more to people than just saying, oh hey, yeah, this is how you squat. I mean, I don't really know how you squat, but however that.
Yeah, I heard that on the internet.
However, all that shit is done
Is a thing.
but it's really cool to see that, you know, a good person that is recognized and you know very popular in the sport.
Well, I think that your whole point, though, is a really good point, because I've gone and hung out with these other lifters and stuff, and, you know, there's those people that are more popular are the ones that are more relatable, like you are, rather than the guy you go hang out with, and it's like, so what do you bench? And then it's like, all I'm going to sit around and talk about for the entire evening is lifting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's in
I feel like you're
powerlifting.
making fun of me. I feel like this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a jab.
I'm sorry.
How much do you deadlift?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, they're, you know, even with Adrian or, you know, a lot of the guys that I know that are at that higher level that are like decent people and more popular, they don't just sit there and be like, so yeah, well, when I go to the bench, you know, I did a session this last week and it went like this. I mean, fine, that's cool. It goes for so long, but after a while, it just gets boring. Is that all you are? Is that all there is to you?
Yeah.
Is I'm just going to teach you or talk to you about lifting? It's like, that's cool, bro, but I'm bored now. I don't want to like come hang out with you. I really don't want to follow you anymore, because all I'm going to hear from you is beast mode. Or, you know, at the gym again, lifting weights. And I get that, you know, I'm not saying you don't have to have that kind of drive. I'm kind of with you in that, you know, you've got to have that kind of commitment. You've got to be working, you know, like you were talking about. My training days, you were talking when we were downstairs. You said, my training days, I don't do anything. Like, people were like, hey, let's go hiking, let's go do this, let's go do whatever. I'm not doing that. It's my training day. But that being said, when you're not training, you still have a personality. You're still a person, and it's not like, one of the things I try to talk about is like, when you come to the gym, you leave the outside world outside and you're here to train. That being said, I think people have this tendency of when they leave the gym and go back out in the outside world, they take the gym with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that you should find that balance and find that separation of when you show up to the gym, you're at the gym. And that world out there is out there. And when you leave the gym in the gym. And not take it with you and be like, so guys, let's go out and get some food. No, I'm going to talk about is teaching Adrian how to squat. And I'm just saying that's a really good point. And I'd never thought about it in those terms, but you're right. Like the lifters that I know that are that higher level lifter, it's funny when you go sit and talk with them, they don't sit there and be like, yeah, I was lifting and I did. I mean, sure, it comes out on occasion, but it's not the only thing they talk about. And I've met, you know, lifters that are, you know, lower or whatever, and they're not as popular and they're not as, you know, infamous, or if you will. And they'll just sit there and be like, yeah, I'm at the gym. I lift weights. Yeah, I'm going to lift again. And all they talk about, that's the only thing they have. And that's just an interesting point. I just wanted to say I agree with you, and it's just a different way of thinking of it.
I'm really surprised you didn't say, for me personally.
I worked on it. I tried hard not to.
All right, so I'm going to up the ante here for a minute.
Yeah. We have, Ben, to fill you in a little bit, we have a problem. So I always say, all right, well, I'm going to up the ante. And Jeff always says, well, for me personally, so like.
They haven't figured out what mine is.
And this guy, well, you say a
Yeah.
lot. And so, like, between the three of us, we screw this up every single time. And I'll say it at some point. I'll up the ante.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me personally, whenever I start, but it's generally when I start getting too much into training or something, I just start to always preface it with, well, for me personally, because I'm just making sure everybody knows, that's my personal opinion, the way I look at it.
You have to be careful with blanket generalizations.
Right.
I do
That's
stuff like that too, because I don't, at least like when I'm offering advice and stuff, I'm never actually married to my own opinion so much that I'm not willing to entertain other opinions. And I also don't necessarily think that everything that I'm going to say is going to be drops of gold, guaranteed that it's not. I'm going to be able to help anybody. So for me personally, my version of that is like, well, here's just kind of like my idea. Like, this is what I see.
Yeah.
Do with it what you want. If not, then cool, whatever. But
One of my favorite quotes, and I have so many videos that I come back to this, is follow the man who seeks the truth, but question the one who says he's found it. And that really is big on this kind of a thing.
That.
You have to. It's like, yeah, we're all looking for the answers. We're all looking to try to find out. We talk about optimization of things, and I do talk a lot about weightlifting with my friends. I'm not even going to try to pretend. A few things I'm going to clarify. First of all, I am not super duper popular. I know that I am under no delusion that I am like some highly super respected high profile lifter. That's not, I have what I would consider a pretty, it's a modest following, but they're pretty loyal and they're awesome supporters, and I appreciate every single one of them, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. I would also say that to preface things with me personally, it's the same reason my buddy Izzy from Powerlifting to Win always says, in my opinion, before he goes off on some of these things, because if you take it as this blanket generalization, you kind of get stuck in a corner of having to stand by what you said, and that is one of the fastest ways to stop your progress. And as soon as you become the guru, who everything you say is expected to be the truth and it can't be said otherwise, anytime that I'm offering advice on a lifting some sort of platform, I try to encourage people to do more research than just come to me. If I'm the first and last person you're coming to get your information, you're doing it wrong. You don't care, you're not passionate enough about what you're doing to put in the time to learn more about it and find a broader idea of what it is, because none of us have all the answers. And what you were saying, where you're not so in love or attached to your ideas, that's the people say, well, science versus bro science, and a lot of people that take the science claim will get stuck by saying, well, this is scientific, and they'll kind of forget the principles of their own belief, that if I can demonstrate to you with empirical evidence that what you're saying isn't absolutely correct, you don't get to argue with that anymore. You have to change your opinion based on the evidence that's presented. And so people that claim to be taking a scientific approach aren't living that in their lives by being just open to the idea that they don't have it. I mean, scientific theories are theories. As soon as you disprove one of those theories, it doesn't count anymore. And you have people that are outliers that may not live up to those particular set of expectations. So I'm going to up the ante. And personally, I think that it's important to... I said, what was in there? Get on my level, bro. Come on. But it's important to make sure that you don't live in this world where you think that you have it all figured out every time. You can always learn more. You can always add more to the bar. There's always something. And it's the same kind of thing. I talked about it. Again, I'm going off on a rant, but deal with it. It's a podcast. I get to do this now. Where someone said, oh, well, I only bench such and such. I can't give you advice. Or when Adrian jokes and says, well, I can't help, what's a squat? I can't help you on that. Just because someone's level of displayed performance may not be at the same level that... I saw a meme the other day that outlined this, saying, don't ever listen to someone who doesn't have what you want. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard. That was so disappointing to see that just because someone else may be gifted in another area, maybe their area is they're a phenomenal coach, and they can spot the differences in your technique than what you're doing. Maybe you're a really strong guy. You just have genetically or blessed, and you have all these things going together. But this other person has something that is a legitimate, helpful, hopefully peaceful piece of advice that you could use and potentially get better. And if you shut it down saying you're not as strong as me, so I'm not going to listen, and that piece of helpful advice goes unused, you have just shot your own progress in the foot. You stopped it short of what you're capable of doing. And so the better you get, the less you know, and the more open you are to changing your opinion based off of those things. It's the guys who are really good at this sport generally are more open to the idea of doing what it takes to get better, even if it means being wrong, even if it means being proven wrong, and manning up about it or womaning up about it. Equal responsibility here, where you say, yeah, that is potentially helpful. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you'll try something and it isn't the best thing. At least you tried it. At least you know. I'm not saying do every piece of possible criticism or advice that everyone gives you, but use some critical thinking, earn the brain that you have living up there, think about it, process it, and see if it's worth your time and could potentially be helpful to you, or else what's the point? Why are you even trying?
Well, don't just judge a book by the cover is basically what you're saying.
Well,
Because you can look at somebody who's just jacked and be like, that's the guy I want to teach me how to do bench press, and he's 200 or he's 300 pounds and he benches 225, and it's like he might not be performing what you want, and you might want to be like, well, he's jacked, he might not be where I want to be performance wise, but I'm going to go learn from this guy, even though he doesn't know what he's doing, or and I'm just using weights as an example, but it's not necessarily you could have Adrian over here who's just fat. And it's like, I could go
how's it feel?
Man, not good. My self-esteem is ruined.
So, you got Adrian over here, and, you can go look at him, and when he walks around the gym, yeah, he's a bigger guy and stuff, but it's kind of like, yeah, okay, bro, you're going to teach me how to do something? Like, why am I going to go listen to him? He's been lifting, he has a lot of experience with lifting, and he makes jokes about squats and stuff, but he can still somewhat talk you through, like, if you've never squatted before, Adrian can still help you and still make you better, and I'm just saying that you look at Adrian, it's like, yeah, why would I listen to him on squatting, or why would I, listen to this person on that, or whatever, and so I think that's just kind of goes back to that don't judge a book by its cover, just to summarize what you were
Be open-minded. If you're serious about getting better, you don't have the luxury of thinking you know everything, because you'll run out of that real fast.
Well, I think that's kind of one of the central things you'll notice about people that are successful about something. It's like they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, get in a different room.
Yeah.
It's the people that have actually found any degree of success have gone and specifically, acknowledge what their weaknesses are. It's the same skill set that you use in powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what you suck at, go find the information or the person for the information to figure out how to fix the thing that you suck at, and then run with that until you find another weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed is that the people that are the most successful, and this is why I try and find friends who are good at things, they're always humble. They're the humble person, and they're the ones that are open to information. And it's usually the people who don't know what they're talking about that are trying to use their confidence in what they kind of know to compensate for that lack of actual understanding.
Humble people don't have to worry about the potential of failing. You might get disappointed, but you're not going to look like a douche-waffle when you fail if you've been real with yourself and real with other people. If you're giving your best effort and you're working as hard as you can towards this thing, no matter what it is, if you're conducting yourself with humility and with dignity as a person and working on building your character, there's going to be people there at the end anyway. What good is it getting to the top of the mountain if you look down and no one else is there to share it with you? If people don't like being around you because you've become such a negative source in their own life, you have to live your life with humility. And you see some of these guys, I'm gonna give up even more of my Seahawk cred. Sherman, and he's really good at what he does, right? But he's really this outspoken, the trash talk in football. You could make the argument that it's going to help your performance. Maybe he's not like that on an individual basis, and it's kind of a show. But then you see the quarterback Russell Wilson is like, sorry guys, I don't
know. I'm not judging you at all.
Yeah, but
I feel great.
But
I'm just laughing about Mike's expressions through the whole thing.
Over here talking about Call of Duty and trying to bring up football. It's like, Jesus.
I got nothing. Man. Optimation. But no, but the quarterback, he's humble in his stuff. You're confident in that situation. You know that you're working with the best information you have and you're moving forward and trying to get better. But that is a much easier person to be around. You might be like, yeah, Richard Sherman with his, he told him, or whatever the situation is. You might think it's really cool when they're dissing on your team, but if it's a guy on another team, or if it's a guy coming at you from another angle, and you're not intrinsically linked to them, trying to support them, you lose support really quick when you're not a very good person. But if you're being humble in something, it opens you up to the potential to learn more, to be more open to those ideas and not have to eat your words of saying, well, what, you changed your mind? Well, yeah, I changed my mind because that guy had a good point. What are you talking? That's I did a video topic recently. Half my videos now are relating back to other videos that I've done. I don't know if that's a good business model, whatever. But one of the videos I talked about is dealing with criticism and how it's really frustrating sometimes when you're on social media, especially with how big that's gotten, where people will offer some piece of criticism and you'll see, like, what does this guy know? Like, he's just tearing me apart. And if you're living with humility, if you're being open and accepting of those kind of things, it allows you to accept that criticism and not get worked up about it. People generally don't tend to get mad or angered by critique that they totally disagree with. It's when someone hits that chord, when they say something that you already know, when someone's like, hey Ben, your bench looks awful, and I'm like, yes it does, and I don't have somewhere to stand and say, well no it doesn't, because I'm not going to get any better if I just try to defend something that I can work on. But maybe a better way to deal with that is like, you know what, that's why I'm doing it so much. That's why I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. Is if you remove yourself from being on that high pedestal of that highest expectation where you have to be right all the time, it offers you so much more relief and the room to actually improve. You don't have anywhere to grow if you're the biggest guy in the room, or even if you're only there because you think that you are. You have to give yourself the room to grow intellectually and through your own character to build the skills that you need. That gets me every time. I just look over like, what's happening? But I think it's crucial. You have to try to be humble. And some people will say, well, it doesn't work for me. I have to, I try to get in their heads and play those mind games. The Arnold Schwarzenegger and Pumping Iron kind of thing, where it's like, they're only vices. But it's, that kind of a person may see some success, but maybe their home life isn't going to be quite as good, and maybe they're gonna lose their ability to keep improving because you shut yourself off to that potential. And I hope, anytime I catch myself, I'm not perfect in this at all. There's definitely times when someone will give me a legitimate piece of advice. I'm like, what are you talking about? You squat 225, and that's something that I personally have to work on. I'm far from a perfect human being. I don't just do it. You were really generous when you said, oh, he's just a nice guy. There's times when I'm not such a nice guy, but the point isn't already being there. It's, if I was already where I'm going, then what's the point of going? I'm constantly on the journey, and I'm constantly trying to fix those things. I'm far from perfect, but at least I'm aiming the rifle in the right direction.
One of the things I want to talk about is your home gym. One of the things I struggled with, a while back, a few years ago, I started putting a gym together in my garage, and this guy actually came over and partially stole a squat rack.
He sold it.
There's more to this than we're going to hear.
There's no bill of sale, so.
Well, I already sold it anyways.
Oh, okay, never mind.
That's Oregon.
I painted it black. I basically bought it and then repainted it.
Yeah, sold it.
Yeah.
Did you make any money off of it?
No, I sold it. No. Why would I split it? I already paid you.
Well, I'm just trying to get something. One of the things that I always struggled with was having the intensity training on my own. I never could really have that mind frame of going in there and really tearing it up. Like, I kind of feel like I need to be around either a group of guys or go to a commercial gym where people are there. Like, I always kind of feel like I have that feeling of I want to leave the gym and everybody look at me and go, he outworked me.
Right.
He outworked me. And I know why he's there, because he outworked me. When I was training on my own, and even doing rehab stuff in my garage, I find myself getting in there and just half-assing it, and then going like, you know what, I'll do this tomorrow. I'm going to get up a little early tomorrow, and I'm going to knock this out. And then tomorrow doesn't happen. And then you're like 4 or 5 days out, and you're like, man, I got to just go to the gym. This isn't working for me. So how do you bring that intensity to train in your garage and train at your house and bring it when there's nothing there except for yourself and maybe a little bit of music?
I would say that they're in that with all things. There's not a right or a wrong way to do it, and there's people who've seen success both ways. In Matthew Perry's book, Squat Every Day, he talks a lot about personality types and how some people thrive in different environments, and kind of like high reactive people and low reactive type people. And it sounds to me like you're more of a low reactive type person, where you can have a whole lot of outside stimulus and it encourages you. It's the kind of person who can like go to a club and be out all night, and like they get their energy from that. You get your energy from other people. You're really potentially extroverted, where that kind of a thing happens. And I know personally, I would identify much more as an introvert in disguise. I can handle people.
Social introvert.
Yeah, I can handle people like for a period of time. Like I have no issue being with you guys here, and we can work out together, and I can do that. But for my, it's me expending energy to be around people. As kind of sad as that might sound, it's just the personality type that I feel like I have, where that time alone or time kind of doing it by myself, that's where I feel like I am energized and I don't have to worry about being distracted by other things. One of the a training partner is this going to sound horrible again? A potential liability if their goals don't match up with your own. I have found, some people, with my workouts, a lot of the time, they're pretty boring. I'm not going to lie, I don't do flashy things. I used to do a lot more crazy stuff, but the more boring my training has gotten, the more success it has brought me in general. And a lot of people would get bored in those situations, and I feel like I'd have a lot of partner burnout if I was training around other people. And again, my drive, kind of the thing that keeps me wanting to improve, doesn't have quite as much to do with other people. I know that you're a pretty competitive person. I've heard some of the talks. I know that when you were on the show with Mark Silent Mike and Jim McD, that you talked about kind of, you were encouraged and drawn to do more when someone said, "Oh, you can't do that," and you wanted to show them up, and it was kind of meeting a challenge that someone else issued. Where my motivation, I think, is a little bit more internal. I'm not as much of a confrontational person. I will argue and debate with someone, hopefully in a healthy and polite fashion, but at the same time, I find a lot more kind of the calmness of being on my own gets me hyped up. I don't know. I feel like it's easier for me to focus on what I need to focus on. That also might be the ADHD talking. I trained at the rec center for years and constantly would get frustrated if I had to wait for a squat rack or had to wait for a bench, or if people would come up and ask questions, and I'm down with I want to always try to maintain the position and the outlook of being a spokesman for the sport and really trying to be a positive role model for anybody who might follow my stuff, however, whatever their situation is. So I never want to shut someone down and say, hey, don't talk to me right now, and I always try to do that. But I noticed that those kind of environments really do take away my ability to focus on the gym time, like you were talking about, where it's like, hey, I love you all as people, you're all beautiful, special baby angels and stuff, but now it's time for me to go in the garage and be alone to work on building me, to work on that. And that's kind of, it's one of those things that I think you could condition yourself to do it and maybe find it, but ultimately that's kind of a personality trait and almost more of a genetic thing that I just am more prone to. And I don't know if it's something that a person will be like that forever. I think I used to get a lot more energy from other people. As I've gotten a little bit older, when I say a little bit older, from in my early 20s to mid 20s, that I kind of have sort of settled more into a general acceptance, or at least relaxed state of being on my own and finding more enjoyment in those times with maybe 1 to 2 people max at a time, and not really hanging out with large groups of people and trying to get my energy from all these external sources, because I've become more of a low reactive or a high reactive person, where a little bit of stimulus is all I need to get going.
It's funny that you bring that all up, because when we were down earlier working out, Jaron started bringing up ammonia and stuff with you, and you were saying I don't use it. Me personally, I used to when I first. Yeah, exactly. When I first started, lifting, it was a lot more the show, and I like to be around a bunch of people and work with more people and have a big environment and all that stuff. And now it's I go crazy with other people in the gym. We were down there training and stuff, but I still kind of just, you saw me, I kind of just jumped around with everybody. Oh, I'm gonna go do this now. I'm gonna go do this. When I'm seriously doing my training, I maybe 1 or 2 people in the gym. I can't have people in the gym. At our gym, we have one of those big sliding doors. If we put the big sliding door up, it's hard for me to train, because it's I can't train with other people, and I cannot use ammonia at all. If I use ammonia, it just distracts me. I can't stay focused. I can't lift. So I never use ammonia tablets. And I made a joke one time with another lifter. He'll enjoy this, Bob Moyer. We were lifting together, we were at a competition. He asked me about ammonia tablets, and I said no. I just get psyched up with the power of my mind. So then he just made the joke, and he kind of has posted this on Facebook before and stuff, that I just lift things with my mind. And I mean, but to me, that's just kind of, and it does come down to that kind of personality type and just what you want to do. I do have a tendency to be a little bit more confrontational and like, yeah, I'm going to get it, I'm going to, you know, bring it and all this stuff. But I still get myself psyched up on my own because ultimately to me, it's just me and the weights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody else matters. And to me, I can get distracted when there's a bunch of people running around doing stuff and people like, you don't even have to be talking to me. You can just be over there working out and stuff and I'll be like, oh, let me watch what you're doing. Let me see your form.
Yeah.
Let me see how fast you're going. And I think that also comes more from when I started like working as a trainer a little bit more and coaching people. It's hard for me to train when other people are in the gym now because I get so
Can't
caught
stop
up in like,
seeing things.
oh,
yeah.
well, you know what? You could do this a little bit better. So if I'm working out with guys that are like on that kind of level where they kind of know what they're doing already, and I don't need to be like watching everything they're doing, it's not a big deal. But if I'm in like a public, like a fitness club, and people are just working out around me, I'm like, oh, what's that? What are you doing over there? Let me correct you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're not coaching right now. Chill out. Just do your own training session. So it's just kind of, I'm with you, and I think that it's partially kind of how you develop as a lifter and who you are just personally and how your personality develops, and not just necessarily the gym, but just who you are as an individual. And so just kind of going with you, I think that there is a certain aspect of the genetics kicks in and kind of the type of person you just are, because like I said, I know lots of guys who use the ammonia stuff and they like go get all jacked up and like, yeah, and I tried it one time and I was like, what is this? I can't lift.
Well, and it's some people really do thrive off of those external motivators, or you know, find themselves really having a negative response to taking it away. And so I wouldn't ever want to change someone and say you're getting too hyped up before you lift, because if that's what works for them and that's what really, you know, this is not a case of right or wrong. This is a case of I don't want to say personal preference, but just maybe like personal bias when it comes to those, because you can't prefer one way or the other. Maybe someone's like really, you know, any time that I would like celebrate before a lift or try to get hyped up, it was, you know, that might have been a personal preference where I was trying to do that or trying to emulate because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, or like with you with the ammonia where it's a show and you're trying to do that and it just doesn't work.
Right.
If that's not the kind of person you are. But I went and trained with, like I said, the Izzy and Shaq and Kelso from the Powerlifting to Win crew, and those guys are freaking insane when it comes to like their, whoa, let's go, baby, or the Pete Rubishes of the world where he's training by himself, but he better be because you're going to hear him 3 states over. You know, this kind of a yelling thing. But, or like a George Lehman, who's an extreme example of someone who's so internal that it becomes external, and he's weeping before doing a deadlift, and like, but then you have Jesse Norris, who like hits the most, in my personal opinion, you know, up in the ante here, that
I always say up in your nanny.
up in your, oh, okay, well, up in your nanny, when he hit his 198 total, that was like the heaviest total, that was to me one of the most amazing powerlifting feats ever accomplished by anything. He hits his 821-pound deadlift, and he turns around. He shrugged. He legitimately was like, whatever, I just did it, you know? And that to me was like, oh my gosh, Jesse Norris, if you're watching this, which you may not be, but I hope you do, you're my spirit animal. Because like sometimes I'll have one of those moments where I, you know, my outro in all my videos was this huge pull that I'd been chasing for 3 years. I'd missed it in like dozens of meets, and I finally got it on a meet that wasn't going very well, and I freaked out and lost control of myself. And if I take a step back, I'm like, yeah, I was only 750 though. Like, I mean, like, what warrants getting that kind of excited where I could just shrug? I don't know, but it's the kind of person you are, and you can't really pick it. Izzy told me that he does a lot of meditating so that he can kind of go one way or the other. But maybe he's just at that higher level than I've not gotten to at your ability to control your own kind of emotional state. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe I've got a little bit more meditating practice to do, but we'll see.
I guess kind of, since I'm kind of in between all of you guys, like I'm very introverted, and I pretty much have trained by myself for most of my training life, because I've had friends that, like you were saying, their drive expires, or the goals change, or what training actually means to me is completely on a different level than what it is for them, and they drop off. And so I've gotten very used to training by myself, but I do love ammonia. And how that works for me is not so much that I need to freak out, or, you know, I'm not a headbutt the bar kind of person. I'm more on the opposite end, and you can see that from like my
Right.
first set today to like the second. I have to find that intention and get kind of out of the neurotic and the hyper analytical side of my mind and actually tap into some of the emotional side, and that's where that's really helpful for me. It's not so much that I need to scream and jump around and like, hey everybody, look at this mediocre deadlift I'm about to do. It's more, you know, kind of getting and switching gears from, you know, coach brain and, you know,
Right.
all right, so I need to focus on this, I need to focus on this, and you know, there comes a time where you have to just do the thing.
Let go, or else you
Yeah.
overthink yourself into the ground.
And so that for me is what's really helpful. I'm big on ritual. Like when I pull, I walk up to the bar from the same side
Right.
every single time, no matter where I'm hanging out. It's the same foot, it's the same hand, and the same order all the time. And aside from that script that I've just practiced over and over and over to make it automatic, I just need to get out of my head sometimes and just be in the moment. And that happens for me
Right.
whether someone's here or not.
Mm.
Like I've gotten used to kind of finding that point when I'm training by myself, or if there's a group there, then it helps. But it's a lot harder for me in a group of people than
Right.
it is just by myself.
When I'm training even by myself, I'll do the thing of, I do the script thing where I have the exact same way I set up on all of my lifts, so I set up the exact same way every time. But I'll still, even when I'm by myself, I'll start screaming and yelling. I do a lot of self-degradation. I just cuss at myself and like tell myself how worthless I am.
That George
stuff
Lehman
that.
approach
Yeah.
right there, okay.
And I'm just like, you know, like I don't headbutt the bar or anything, but I will, like, I'll hit myself in the face sometimes, or I'll just be like, you've got to do this, and like if I fail on a lift, then, you know, and that's one of the other reasons why I don't like to train around a lot of people, because it's like, in a way, it gets a little bit personal, and it's a little bit like me talking crap about myself, and I don't want like a bunch of people like sitting there watching it and seeing me struggle or seeing me fail, and that's just kind of for me that personal mindset of like, you know, it gets a little bit emotional or it gets a little bit personal. It's like I don't necessarily want everybody standing there like, oh, you got it, man. And sometimes for me, when people start screaming at me like, you know, you've got this, it's like, shut up. I know I've got it. Let me internalize. Let me deal with it myself. I don't need your support. I don't need you telling me what I'm doing. And to be honest, a lot of times that distracts me. When people are like, oh, you've got it. I'm like, wait, why are you yelling at me like that?
Did you not think I did before?
Yeah.
Did I do
Yeah.
something